Today we're going to learn how to cook chicken piccata. So the first thing you do is you take the chicken, and I'm just going to put it on the board here. I had the chicken already cut, so you may want to cut it yourself. If you go to the supermarket, you take the chicken cutlet and you slice it this way, nice and thin. Actually, these are looking a little thick, so I'm going to pound them out. Okay, so we said we were going to pound out these cutlets. So what I did was I took 3 cutlets and I put them on parchment paper. I took another piece of parchment paper and laid them over the cutlets so that we don't splash the entire house with chicken. Okay, now you have to pound them to make them thinner. You can take the back of a pan and pound them with the back of a pan, just to make them thinner. Just like that, pound nice and hard. I actually have a pounder, which makes it a little easier. I know they sell them online. It's called a meat pounder and a tenderizer, because if you're going to use meat, you use this end here to tenderize meat. But for chicken, we use the flat end. And I'm just going to pound the chicken out and make it nice and flat. Okay. Just like that. So when you take the top piece of the parchment paper off, you see that the cutlets are nice and thin now. So I have another 2 or 3 cutlets. I'm going to do the same thing, and then we'll be prepared to dredge it. Okay, so the next step we have to do is we have to season the cutlet. So I take some salt and I just sprinkle salt over the cutlet, nothing major, and then I crack some pepper. Or if you have black pepper, it doesn't have to be cracked right then. Just get black pepper. And then I'm going to do is I'm going to flip them over. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, because we want the cutlet fully seasoned so we get a nice flavor out of it. So we'll crack the pepper here like this, and we'll move on to the next step. So we have these cutlets that are now seasoned. I've seasoned them all. And the next step is just to dredge them in a little bit of flour. It doesn't take much. You just lay it on the flour and you just pat it down. And there's no amount of flour that I've specifically used. I just fill the bottom of the plate up with flour. And you know, if you run short, you just put some more flour in there. If there's too much, you just throw it out. Flour is not expensive. It's nice and cheap. So I just push down on the top of the cutlet so it catches the flour. And you can see how it catches it nice and evenly. And you can just do this. So you do this. What we're going to do is we're going to add some extra virgin olive oil, about 5 tablespoons to the pan. I'm just going to rough it out, but if you have a measure, it's 5 tablespoons. I'm just going to spread it out along the pan. Just like that. Okay, we should be good there. 5 tablespoons of oil, and we're just going to let it heat up. Heat up for about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. You take 2 tablespoons, now this is 4 tablespoons because I pre-cut it already. So this should be about 2 tablespoons, and you drop it in. Okay. Now what the oil does is it makes the butter will not burn. It raises the temperature of the butter. So what we do is we just let the butter sit in here, and the minute that the butter is completely dissolved is when we're going to add our chicken. Okay, so it looks like our butter is completely dissolved, and I just swirl it around to get a nice even mixture of oil and butter. So it's time for our chicken. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the chicken here, take the cutlets, and just lay it in. Okay. That's good. Depends on how many cutlets you can fit in your pan. I have a big pan here, so I can probably fit 3 big cutlets. But if you only can do 2, that's fine. You just do it more. Well, the total cooking time for the cutlets is about 4 or 5 minutes. We're getting about 2.5 minutes on each side. Okay, so it's been about 2.5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the cutlet. Okay, here we go. Okay, looking good. It's going to be another 2.5 minutes on this side. 2.5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cutlet out and put it on a separate board just for the moment, so I get my other cutlets in, and I cook them as well. Let's cook the other cutlets. Let me lay these in here. we're going to go through the same exact process. It's going to be 2.5 minutes on each side. And I'll give you 5 colors here. Okay, so let's do that as well. Okay, so what we're going to do, we did the same exact thing with these cutlets. And these are ready, so we'll take these out. And we're done with the cutlets for right now. Our next step is to add a 1/2 cup of chicken stock. So just add it right in. And it's going to do that. It's going to steam right up, which is good. And I'm going to take a 1/3 cup of fresh lemon juice. You can't use the lemon juice that you buy in the store. Get fresh lemons and do the juice. And then I took a handful of capers. I took them out of the bottle and then I ran them over cold water over the sink because you want to get rid of the vinegar taste of the capers. So I did that and then I just added them in here. Okay, and we're going to let this, what we do is we scrape up the brown bits that were left by the chicken, which is probably where the best flavor is at, so we're going to release them into the broth here. So I'm just going to take my wooden spoon and just go over them and release all the bits. Okay, so now that the mixture has started to bubble up a little, I know it's nice and warm, and I take the 2 remaining tablespoons of butter and I drop them in, and I just let the butter burn. I let the butter melt right into the sauce. Okay. Okay, so the butter now the sauce is complete. So once that happens, we're going to drop the chicken back into the pan. All in here. It's not that important. They touch okay. So I fit them all in. And we're just going to let it sit in the pan for about a minute just to soak up the juices. So after like 30-40 seconds, just flip them over and let the other side of the chicken be in the broth. Let's see, maybe another 10-15 seconds. And what it's basically doing is the chicken's absorbing some of the sauce. Okay, that's good. Flip it over. Okay. And we'll let this sit here for another 30 seconds. Okay, so we had the chicken dredging in here. It's done. I'm going to lay it on my plate. Let's see what we have here. Let's see if I can squeeze it all in onto one plate. Cheat a little. Okay. We'll lay this one across like this. Okay, and you have your chicken here. Now the next thing you do is you shut off the stove. Mix it up a little here. You don't want to waste it with delicious sauce. So you take your pan, take it here, pour over the chicken. And there you have it. That is chicken piccata, nice and easy.